Have you guys actually thought through how much money you're going to make when you graduate? Anybody thought that through? Yay! It's your wife, isn't it? It's because she's stressing you.
It's because with teachers, their salaries are already posted.
Yeah,
Exactly
true. You know that's true.
every year.
Yeah, yeah. How about some of the rest of you? Yeah, how much?
About 60.
60 is great. That's really good. Yeah. How many of you have no clue what you're going to make after you graduate? Which is most of you. You guys have started on your debt list, right? So you know about what your debt is. Is it next week that you have to submit your list of, I think it's next week. Your debt is due?
That's in 3 weeks.
Is it 3 weeks? Okay, 3 weeks your debt is due. So you're going to have your debts listed in rank order from highest interest rates to lowest interest rates, right? You're going to know about what your payments are because you're going to research it. So you can tell me how you're going to pay it off, the order that you're going to pay it off, and you can tell me about what your total amount of money is going to be that you've got to pay down. Bless your heart. Do you know that, not that you should be that you should be going bankrupt on anything, but you know that school debt is the one thing you cannot go bankrupt on. Did you know that? It means you must, bless you, you must pay it off, right? So no matter what it is, it's your commitment to get it paid down. So you need to make enough money to service the debt that you have for school, right? How many of you are going to wait 6 months to start paying your school loans because you can? I'm so proud. That does me. Because you shouldn't. Because as soon as you graduate, the interest rates kick in and you begin to increase the debts that you have. Many of your loans, you can actually, you get 6-month deferment. Don't do it. Don't run. You know, don't do it because interest rates will grow those loans and it'll just be harder to pay down. So I encourage you to seek work, try to start to pay those things off and right out of the chute. Okay, how much is enough? What do you guys think is the figure that you need to make at graduation time? There's no right or wrong, sir. What do you need to make? How much is enough? What do you think?
I don't know. We didn't actually talk about a number because I don't even know if I live with roommates and everything that
Yeah.
cuts down rent.
Yeah.
So I don't really need too much, but I also, because I work now, I also do like nice things too.
Yeah.
And like to
And you like to do stuff that
yeah,
doesn't restrict you.
entertainment.
You guys will be working on your budgets in a couple of weeks, and when you do that, this is going to be an important question because it's going to make a difference on what you do at graduation. Is $30,000 enough? Average salary coming out of with a bachelor's degree is about between 30 and 45,000. Is that enough? So 60,000, yeah, you go, girl, yeah. Is it enough? Average salary of a Starbucks employee, if you can get a full-time position, is about 22, maybe 25, maybe. Right? Plus tips, right? Is it enough? What do you guys think?
No, I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You know, if it's what you can get, if it's like a leg up to work, then, you know, there's a huge discussion right now on, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the section on work. But there's a huge discussion on, do you take a job until you can get the job that you want, or do you just go full gun trying to get the job that you want? And that's going to be something you guys have to kind of struggle with. Because if debt's looming, you got a car payment, you got to pay rent on the house, you got to do things, right? You may have to take something to make that happen, which makes it real hard to be out looking for work, right? What influence does debt have on it? What do you guys think? It's pretty obvious, right? Bigger debt you have, the more you got to make, right? But I wanted to go on the mission field right out of Biola. Sorry, you got to pay down your debt first. I wanted to become a pastor. Sorry, you got to pay down your debt first because your $18,000 salary isn't going to cut it, right? How about this one? What'd you guys say? On the kids for money? Whatever's left over.
That's a joke. I'm gonna put stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, enough said. We won't ask any. So what do you guys think? Are you going to leave money for your kids? Kids? What? Who's talking about kids? Are you?
Yeah, depending on
How
the
come?
circumstance. Well, it's wise to leave an inheritance to your children,
It's kind of biblical, right? Yeah.
but also in the society that we live in, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to do that.
Yeah. Did you guys hear that? Biblical kind of concept to leave money for your kids, but it's becoming more difficult to do that. And I've heard from more and more very, very wealthy people that they do not plan to leave money to their children. They want to give it to those organizations or start a family foundation or do something creative, because then it's up to the kids to earn the money that they're going to live on. And I've heard about kids you ever heard of kids getting spoiled because they get a big amount of money? Who wants to be spoiled, amen? Oh, no, kidding. But you hear about that, right? Were you going to?
Well, I was going to say that it's that is an issue. But the only thing is, when most people, their parents die when they're in their 40s, 50s, maybe even earlier.
Yeah, maybe.
So, are you leaving money to your kids, or are you leaving money to your grandkids?
Yeah, yeah. Julie's mom with us, we're executors of the estate, of her mom's estate. And we know exactly what she has, and we know what we're going to distribute out to the kids, right? So we know and we can expect, so can you hold the question? We know and what to expect when her mom passes. And it's very interesting because, you think about, well, we know about what's coming. If we wanted to, we could spend that money now and then pay it back but that's not good stewardship, is it? And we've talked about, in fact, we've asked our financial advisor, do we take that and pay down the house when we get it? Or do we invest in other real estate? What do we do with the asset that comes, that we know is coming? And he said, interest rates are so low, don't pay down your house, do something else with it, invest it in some other way, which is kind of an interesting concept. But we try not to get messed up thinking about the money to come, right? Because there's no guarantee. She may need to use that, and if she chooses and needs to, she can use that, in whatever time God has for her here. But it's a fairly significant amount. If we weren't on the internet, I'd tell you, but So it's an interesting thing. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I believe part of it, like the modern inheritance, could be sending your kids to college.
Yes, it could. Absolutely could. And there are ways to kind of ensure that. You can start putting certain amounts of money away now so that your kids have that. How about this one? How do you feel about what your parents will do for you? Anybody expecting a glory day when your folks pass on? Anybody? Have you thought about it?
Oh yeah, my parents are pretty good with my mom's parents are really good with their money.
Yeah.
And they have so much investment that they travel all the time, but they travel on just the income that comes from their investment. So the principal actually is untouched.
Yeah.
So then it's basically going to happen with my parents as well. They have, I know kind of how much they have, and I kind of know what they want to do with it.
What if they end up leaving it all to the grandkids?
Which they may do after what you said.
Their will, though.
Yeah. There is an 18, the figure continues to go up, but I think it's $18 trillion that will be passed from my generation to yours. $18 trillion. Now, later in the semester, we're going to look at the national debt. So we'll see what happens with the tax changes. Some of those tax changes may have some huge impact on that transfer of money. The reason I bring this stuff up, I want you to begin to think about it because we've talked about how quickly life passes and how fleeting life is. We're going to talk a little bit more. Today's conversation's kind of grim, but you know, it's partly where we are in the book, and it's also kind of a good conversation to have. So I don't forget, your journals are due today. I'm not going to collect them yet. I'll collect them second half, all right? And I'm going to have you probably do a little project with the journal, depending on how we are on time. So hopefully you have your journals with you. Okay, back to this topic. There are some pretty powerful statements in our reading of chapter 7 of Faith and Money, and I don't want you to miss any of these, so get your notes out. He starts the chapter by talking about the temporary nature of us. Did you guys get that? Did you pick up on that? It's an interesting discussion, having come through what I did with my mom here about 3 years ago now. Both my mom and dad have passed away. When mom passed, we went back as family to Arizona. I went back there with my sister. And we literally, my mom was a collector. She had tons of stuff, and some of it's of value, some of it's not. So we were trying to decide, this really can break up families. I mean, it can really break up families. So we were trying to come up with a creative way to distribute the estate and not get ugly with each other because there was stuff that people wanted. So my sister said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make 4 piles of stuff. So she'd gather stuff and she'd put it in 4 piles because there are 4 of us as siblings, right? And then she numbered them 1 through 4, and then we would actually pick out from a bowl a number. And I was number 2. I'd go to my number 2 stack and I'd go, yes, look what I got. It was like Christmas, right? So you drag all the stuff over to your corner of the house, and my brother would do it, my other brother, and Sherry would pull her stuff. Then she'd make 4 more piles. It was like that all day long. We literally did that for about 8 hours. And we'd put stuff in piles, and then you'd look at your stack of stuff and you go, I'll trade you what you got there for over here, and you know, we'd swap. It was a riot. It was really kind of fun. And it was a great way to kind of divide up the estate, right? And we all kind of negotiated, and we kind of got some of the things that meant something to us. Ultimately, my sister and I ended up getting an 18-foot U-Haul to bring back all the stuff that we got, furniture and televisions, and you know, all the stuff out of my folks' house. But what I noticed, the really interesting thing for us, is that life is fleeting. Life is so quick, and you understand that when you see your parents' love notes from high school, you see, you know, stuff that was collected through the years that they had. And you kind of realize they're not that different than me. They're not that different from you. And it's kind of a fascinating thing. It's kind of weird to think about. On the topic of permanence, a couple of great verses if you start to see who you are and what you have as permanent. I love these 2 passages from the reading. Psalms 103:14. Do you remember what it said? God is mindful that we are but dust. Okay, nothing as impermanent as dust, right? That's us, right? Fascinating. Psalms 103:14. God is mindful that we are but dust. And then he references 2 Peter 1:13, where our earthly bodies are called tents, right? Can't get much more temporary or flimsy than a tent. Anybody backpackers? I've been in big wind in a backpack when the sides of the tent are just kind of going crazy. I've had tents blow over on me. And you realize how flimsy and temporary that is when you see it blow away, right? You can't get much more temporary or flimsy than a tent. At your ages, you kind of feel like life's going to go on forever, right? Because you're young and you know a lot of energy. However, the older that you get, the more you realize that life is a flash. How many of you have lost a parent or a grandparent already? A lot of you, most of you. You probably know better than the rest the understanding of the principle of how quickly life goes. Now that I've lost both my mom and my dad, I realize that the people that have always been there, when they're removed, It's a very odd feeling because you go to pick up a phone and call your folks and you realize I can't talk to them. They're not there. Somebody that's always been there, right? Psalms 90, 10 through 12. So teach us to number our days that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. How many of you guys, that was in the book, how many of you guys did that exercise? I encourage you to do it. Number your days. Think through, if you live to a certain age, how many days you have left. I did it. When I read this for the first time, the really scary thing is my numbers over the days since I did this the first time have changed. If I live to be the same age as my dad, who died at 82, and I'm 50, I have a little over 10,000 days left. And you go, 10,000 days, that's awesome. Until you realize that I've already had like 16,000 some days. I'm more than halfway through. It's kind of scary when you think about the days that we have, right? The point is, we need to remember that our time here is fleeting, right? It's very, very quick. Since I've been at Biola, we've had several students die. One of the students went around the railroad tracks down on stage. The things were down. They went around and a train came through and killed him. Then we had one of our star basketball players, actually was from Mexico, and he went home at Christmas break. And he was sitting on a wall talking to some friends, and he lost his balance, went over, hit his head, killed him. Guy that was here, he was a star, he was amazing. Gifted basketball player. Amazing guy, loved the Lord. And he just went, why? We've had illnesses, we've had car accidents, we've lost students in. Even as students, you never know what kind of time God is going to allow you to have. So I guess I would encourage you to make the best use of the time that you have been given. We have a Biola alumnus named Bill Drake who works for Operation Mobilization. And he wrote a book. This is a fascinating book. I encourage you, it's in the library. I encourage you sometime when you need a good read, if you're really too serious or you're having too much fun, read this book. It's called Wear the Crown. This is what the book looks like. And the book is basically the stories of martyrs who have given up their lives for the cause of Christ. Pretty serious stuff, but amazing to see the testimony of what the men and women of God have done. And there's a part of this that I wanted to read you. This is actually a song. Bill wrote this, and it's a song script that he wrote. So here it is. It says, Jesus I will follow, counting up the things I love and what it's going to cost to take life's precious souvenirs and count them all as loss. Oh, the value that I place on them could not compare to you. Your words of truth have gained my heart as this one thing I do. Jesus I will follow, Jesus I will serve you, Jesus how I love you, Lord. Jesus I'll obey you, Jesus I will lay my life down, how I love you, Lord. I have often wondered, where does my treasure lie? I finally found it buried with my passions and my pride. But you reward the ones who would be righteous in their ways by casting them to trust upon the mercies of your grace. And if you don't return until forever and a day, still I stand with open hands to give myself away. That's by Bill Drake. I love it. It's a great challenge, I think, for all of us to take seriously the time that God has given to us. The authors then talk a little bit about the concept of being aliens and pilgrims in this world. What does it mean to have a citizenship in heaven? What does it mean? Did you guys look up the passage that was referenced? Look up Philippians 3:20. Philippians 3:20. Here we go. For our citizenship is in heaven, from which also we eagerly wait for a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform the body of our humble state into conformity with the body of His glory, by the exertion of the power that he has, even to subject all things to himself. What does it mean to be a citizen of heaven? It's not probably the first time you guys have heard that concept. What's that mean? Not rhetorical. What do you guys think? Yeah, did I see a hand? Oh, was that ear scratch? Tell me, what does it mean?
It means that our worth is not found on earth, but our worth is found in our eternal life.
Okay, good. Somebody else got an idea? Our citizenship is in heaven. Did you get a sense of that when we played Monopoly? I hope so. That was kind of the purpose of that. How does it affect our role as stewards on earth if our citizenship is in heaven? I was trying to think of an example of this and the damage that can be done when your allegiance is to something other than where it should be. Julie and I were traveling on vacation. We took some movies with us that we could watch kind of on the plane. One of them was New World. You guys ever seen New World? It was kind of, I mean, I'm not sure I would recommend it. It was kind of politically correct. It was the story of Pocahontas, right, and Smith. You know, and it kind of had an agenda to it. But in the movie, when Smith is about to be killed by the Native Americans, Pocahontas throws herself down and says, no, don't kill him. He's cute, you know, to her dad was the chief, right? So she saves Smith. And her dad gets ready, and he's, you know, ready to kill the guy. And he holds back and he says, okay, but in 1 year he must leave. You may go with him now and learn his ways, learn about him, learn about his people, so that we might know more about who the white men are, who these people are. So, you know, the next year passes in the film, and birds are singing and the grass is blowing in the wind, and they fall in love, right? And she realizes that she loves this guy, right? So a year comes up and goes, and it's time for them to leave. And Smith says, we're not going to leave. We like it here. You're kind of cute. I kind of like you. So he decides to stay. Well, interesting, Pocahontas hears from her people that they're going to come and wipe out this group of people that are in their land. And she tells Smith, you got to leave because they're coming to get you. He says, we're not going to. She says, well, they're coming tomorrow, right? Be ready because they're coming tomorrow. So the Indian nation comes, Native Americans come, and they fight the white men, but the white men know they're coming, so it's a brutal battle. I mean, if you like battle scenes, it's a great movie to watch because they wipe each other out. It's just it's a big battle. And I was thinking about this concept of being not of this world, right? But that's kind of where Pocahontas was. She forgot that she was a Native American, that she had aligned herself with a different people. And because of that decision, right, a whole culture was wiped out. Her own people were wiped out, right, because of that. A similar movie is Avatar. You guys have all seen Avatar, right? That's a movie where you forget, in this case it was kind of role reversal. He forgot that he was there with a group for a purpose. He was a Marine there for a purpose, right? And he became one of the people. And what happened? It flipped things around, didn't it? He lost his own understanding of who he was, right? Well, that's the danger for us as you think about being not of this world. If we are truly not of this world, then what we do here is really for eternity. What we choose to do and live and buy and work on is not of this world, but it's for eternity. And the purpose is very, very different. Our home is in heaven, and we need to plan and prepare for it while we are here. Have you ever heard somebody say that they were so earthly minded they were no heavenly good? Yeah, kind of like that. Or can we be so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good as well? Well, perhaps. We just can't forget where and to whom we belong. And it's really easy to do in this culture. It's really easy to do when you hear what you hear through media. I also appreciated the author's reflection on eternal rewards. It helped add a little additional clarification to motivation and rewards. Know this, for your notes. The authors identified 3 motivations of the heart. 3 motivations of the heart. You will see this again. Remember what they were from the reading? Yes, you're going to do very well on this. Love of the Father, or in my case, the teacher. Love of the teacher, love of the Father. Number 2, fear of His judgment. Fear of the test that I'm going to give you. And number 3, future rewards in heaven or at the time of graduation when you'll have your degree. So, what are they? Love of the Father, fear of the judgment, future rewards. Interesting motivations of the heart, aren't they? Fascinating. Let's do this. We've got a little bit of time. Get out your journals. Last week we talked about aha moments. What I want you to look at in your small groups for a couple of minutes is your opening page, that opening couple of paragraphs that you did, what you wrote. Take a minute just to kind of reread that first opening paragraph. And then I want you to reflect on areas that perhaps your ideals have changed in the last 7 weeks. Okay? So read your opening paragraph to yourself. I'm not asking you to read it to the people in your group because this is your journal and private. But I want you to read it to kind of remind yourself what you were thinking at the time. And then share in your group if anything has changed in your understanding or in your passion perhaps, or in your desire of how to live. Okay?
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.